We are back. Keith, I absolutely love our intro, the flaming log. Hey, you're watching Community Rip live here on Stocktwits. You got G Piza, JFDI, and myself, Bags, or you can call us Gotum Ben and Nick if you like that better. But hey, have you guys noticed the fiery log in the intro before? I must have been somewhere else unless Keith put that in there. Because that's what this market is. It's a big fiery log of. There's my hot take. No?
That it?
I got nothing for you. I got nothing for you.
We've given up. We've acquiesced to market behavior. But we're live here on StockTwits. Hey Nick,
It's happening.
looking at the market here, we've got quite a bit of dump fest on this Wednesday. GP was complaining while you were backstage there that this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the first Wednesday or second Wednesday all year that we've been read. I don't know how much you read into that, but what do you think's going on here, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think it's a we had a nice kind of little bounce off the lows, and I think we're just kind of rolling over. I mean, some stuff looks pretty gross, and like the bear flag is starting to play out. Obviously, that needs to be confirmed with like new lows getting made. Um, but there's always I'm hopeful that we're putting in, or at least working at putting in a higher low. In where my mind is going is if we do end up taking out these lows, like what am I looking for to happen?
Hang on, Nick.
If we
When you
do.
say these lows, are you talking the low that's being made today or the prior lows that were in the past 2 weeks?
Yeah, no, like that 465 low. Like if we start to take that out and this is a bear flag that
Yep.
materializes.
Yep.
Um, I mean, obviously, I'd probably be going, considering my current positions, I'd probably be going to cash because I'd be getting stopped out of even more. But either way, I don't know where I was going with that, but my point was that if we do end up heading towards those lows and we take that out, I'd be curious to see what we kind of build out because as of right now, we don't really have a. There's some people that called for a follow through day, and there's other people that didn't. And so there's not really a solid pattern to kind of trade off of this low. So I don't know. You got to be patient. You should be small and at least
And
for guys that are swing trading, I mean, we should be small positions, managing risk, preserving mental capital. I don't know.
And I have a
I'm,
question for you, Nick,
yeah, yeah,
into that. And Ben. And what if we went green today? Would that change?
um,
Would that change your
yeah.
perspective?
Like I was looking, so before the show, I was kind of dicking around with the 60-minute chart, and we're sitting at like the 0.382 retracement off the lows from the lows to like the current kind of rally high. 503 is kind of the main price level that I want to see get reclaimed. I don't want to say before I get uber aggressive, but more aggressive than I am currently. Uh, yeah, I mean, I don't. Are you thinking that we go green?
I'm asking.
no,
I'm asking. Like,
no.
Yeah,
I
I don't.
personally think we can. But what I'm asking is like, is this all day to day basis, right? Like, so for me, um, yesterday felt like a trap, right? The reclaim of the 200-day just
Sure.
felt like a trap. So as we're in my Discord, I was telling people, I'm like, this is going to be most likely a trap, but you need to see it confirmed, and we got it confirmed, right? So we were selling into strength yesterday. So I get if you're intraday trading and you're trying to catch small swings here and there, but to me, like I look at my time frames, right, and I'm looking at the 30, the 60, the 2 hour, and the 4 hour, and all of this stuff. We're getting weakness as every time frame crosses up, right? The golden cross, the
Let's get-
50 over the 200 day. I've posted it a few times on stuff. So I was just asking, I was like, we're coming right into the 4-hour 50 SMA here, and that's the last intraday time frame that has not crossed, and onto the bull side, right? So my thought process here is that it's working on aligning the intraday timeframes, and once this happens, it'll be a much smoother sail. Personally, but and it's going to chop in the meantime. A lot of people are predicting what's it called? The sell-off begins on April 2nd. I'm sure that's going to happen, just like everyone shorted the 200 SMA and is getting paid today.
Why?
The
What?
obvious
Why
is
April 2nd?
becoming normal. So I'm just
Tariff.
curious on what you guys think, because something just doesn't. Yeah, something just doesn't smell right.
Tariffs, Nick. That's what's April 2nd.
Oh, right on.
Some of those retaliatory tariffs. GP, I don't think it's something doesn't smell right. I think it's the market that we have, not the market that we want. And I think we still have to defend Monday's low. Currently, we made a new low this week, but as long as we stay above, I'm on the Qs here. As long as price is able to stay above let's just call it 490. Sorry, 484.
Yeah, that's kind of where
If
I.
price stays above 484, I think it can continue to chop around and make a decision later. But I think once we get under, and the 9 daily is down there, the 9 or the 50 weekly is down here, and we switch over to the monthly. The 9 monthly is up there at 489. As long as we're closing below 484, I think
Above.
we're more likely to come back down in this range before we decide to make another move, whether it's up and to the right or down and to the right.
Yeah, that 484 is the candle high of that highest volume bar in that range. So I agree with you. I think if basically today's lows really don't hold, I think we're heading back towards the lows of that range.
I would say that's most likely.
Yeah.
And whether we wick off that 466 area or not, I don't know. But I think somewhere in this 470s on the Qs is quite reasonable. I mean, that's only a couple percent from here. So before the market decides a direction, we have to get some footing, and the market price action has not developed any footing, regardless of what Tuesday or Monday did. Right? That's just oscillating in price. That's all that is.
Based on what? Because for me, I see that it's establishing a base, and we're just going back and retesting a base here.
Sure. I mean,
right?
Yeah.
And
if it holds this level, this might be a new base.
Here, the base pivot highs were 485 from last week, right? That's where we kind of gapped down starting March 10th or whatever. We tried to take it out twice, and we failed both times, and now we're retesting that area.
Yep.
And so if we don't fill that gap here today, which with the amount of weakness we have, why haven't we, is the question. Maybe it happens at the last 15 minutes when the markets seem to do most of their things these days. But so to me, it's just testing the pivot highs from here and establishing a base while the intraday time frames align.
I mean, let's just look at the.
So then, do you think today's pivot high then is a pivot that's tradable? Like if you were trading the Qs, would you be throwing on a position above like 493, 494?
I think I operate differently here. Once we reclaim Monday's low, which is 484.40, which we already have, I take on a trade here and see if we can push up and through, right, in the next couple of days. So I wouldn't take it as a pivot high. We're not in this market where pivot highs are getting rewarded, right? So you want to buy, you have to switch every year. Every year it changes. Um, and so for me, I'd be buying the gap low from Monday and using that, right? So you have a very small stop here. It's 50 cents ultimately if you're buying shares, right, of the Qs. And so you have potential to have a 8, 9 point move higher if this does hold, right? And maybe takes out that level. So your risk to reward ratio here for me is literally 10 to 1, right? Or 20 to 1 here,
Sure.
risking
Yeah.
50 cents
Yeah.
to make not $8 to $10 at a minimum. If it actually is just the base, it could be a lot more. And so that's the way I would operate, not a pivot high. We haven't been rewarding pivot highs in a long time. Look at
Sure.
Root 180 and it's right back down to 148 or whatever, right? But so yeah, if you're asking me how I would trade this, that's kind of how I would trade it because the risk is to the upside, not the downside, in my opinion.
Could be. And I'm not saying you're wrong, GP. What I'm saying is if I were really bullish, this is what I would want to play out.
Yeah,
If I were
totally.
really bullish, that is exactly what I just drew on the chart there. That's exactly what I would want to see play out. But you are right. Just like I stated early on, we want to see this low hold. And I think you can put a trade on here. I think it's a good place to put a trade on. I sold some puts to get long on a couple names. So we'll see. It's a wait and see market, though, right? You can be rewarded if that goes higher, but if that breaks below the low, then you risk coming back down into this area.
Yeah. And based on like the volume that's coming in around that low right now, it's most likely going to break down in the last 15 minutes, as we've seen for the last 5 or 6 weeks on down days. Is it has these meager bounces and then finally fills the gap. So I would have liked to see more support come in, so to speak, on the gap low here, but there hasn't been. But we're also in a very just low volume day today, and that's the part that Nick we were talking about before we started, which is these are some ridiculous moves, and this market in general are some ridiculous moves on some very, very, very low volume, and they're just making people frustrated, and they're just like, if you bought the lows last week, you're already questioning your faith right now. So, in so many names, right? So,
Yeah, because it's a
um,
little, they're pushing price a little further, just like it's just a tad further than you want to see it.
yeah, on the downside, but on the
Yeah.
upside, they're like, "Hey, we have a 200-day reclaim. We're gonna clear it and we're gonna gap it down, right?" Like so,
Yeah.
almost every seasoned trader knows that that's most likely going to be a bull trap, and now you're getting rewarded for it, which is nuts. But that's the markets we have here. The one thing I did find really odd was there were many, many, many names for this week that were well above their put strike, their max put strikes or whatever it was. So it was like they'd already closed out a lot of their puts going into March OpX last week, and we were in a potential gamma squeeze higher, but it obviously did not do that. So there's definitely some like, wait, that was too obvious moments.
So the only thing that I will say in rebuttal to that, putting my bear hat back on, which is getting a little dusty, is we haven't been in the situation for weeks now where we see uh, the pattern or the technical aspect necessarily play out. And I'm afraid a retest here could be a false move. So that's what I'm cautious of. So yeah, I think we can trade it here, but at the same time, I wouldn't be riding it much lower than today's low. That's for sure.
Yeah, and so my thesis here to kind of talk about the counterpoint is that we had a in August on August 5th, 2024, we had a 9% move down overnight in the NQs. right? Which is a total of 17%, which is nuts on a yen carry trade or whatever it was, right? So people levered long the wrong way and getting pummeled out. And so the range that we've been talking about, that's the range that I was talking about, Ben, is like that 480 area, right?
Yep.
It's a box, right? It's not exact numbers and stuff, but we're in that range here. And so my view personally is at this point, until I see a proper breakdown, is a retest of that bottom 8 to 10 months later, which is what
So I,
happens in double. But double bottoms are not retest 3, 4 days later or 5 days later or a couple weeks later. It's usually a prolonged rally and then retested again. So, and it's usually anywhere from 3 to 6 months. This one obviously started happening around 7, I guess, or 6, somewhere around there.
so hypothetically, we close on the lows today. Are you a buyer or seller tomorrow on either a gap up or a gap down?
If we
And
close
like
at the
what?
lows, we gap down, right? Like
What's that?
that's what's going to
Okay.
happen. Um, that's that's how this market has been working for a long time. So I wouldn't be, unless something changes tomorrow. That's not the bet I would make, not the choice I would look at, because if it sells down, it's been gapped down frequently so often in the last 8 months that it's not worth that choice personally for me.
Yeah, if we gap lower, I think I'd be a buyer off the open. If we gap up, it'd be kind of a wait and see, wait for the first 60 minutes for me. But
Why
my
would
in
you
the
buy
back of my
gap
mind,
down?
if we close on the lows today, in the back of my mind, what I would think is coming is another weaker day tomorrow, and hopefully get that low, that retest of the range lows by Friday, and hopefully hold it and just bounce from there. But I mean, I guess we'll see.
So you're saying something like a whole rip the band-aid off situation. Give us 3 bloody days, and you're wanting to buy that.
I mean, I definitely would. Yeah, but
But then your weekly time frame is starting to fail. So that's the that's the
yeah, very,
underlying that's the underlying problem of all this stuff, right? Like so, the SPY is holding the 50-week. The Qs are currently rejecting it, third week in a row. If we don't close above that today, which is at 480, sorry, this week, not today, but 487 ish, it's a rising 50-week, which should usually be viable. It's the second test of it, though. And the first test was, guess what day?
Wednesday.
August 5th on the yen carry trade.
That was close.
So, which I believe was a Monday. And yeah, it's tough to watch. And like the longer this goes on, the daily starts to break down too, right? So you have
yeah,
the 50
yep.
and the 50 is now sloping down, and the 200-day. So the expected bounce here should have been to the 50, not the 200, and so you could argue that because it only got to the 50, it's a weaker market than normal, right?
That or we're just setting up at that or that 480 or that I'm sorry that 495 is just the tradable pivot that carries us to the 50-day.
Yeah.
I mean, if we end up holding here,
As of now, I'm
which
in the camp that things are okay. Yes, there's a lot of work to do, personally,
yeah,
but I'm in the camp that things are okay. And now you got to watch you got to watch that weekly close. You got to see the longer time frames start to make sense.
is there anything
Breakdowns.
worth
Yeah,
trading to the short
breakdown.
side from here?
Short.
Yeah,
Honestly, if Tesla breaks down here, it's going to get smoked, right? And
yeah.
based on how much volume has been coming in, uh, it 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 probably won't. But if you were watching the Tesla chart, you know how I knew it was going to be a trap or at least thought it was going to be a trap. Go to the 15-minute view. You see that opening 15-minute bar yesterday morning? That was one of the heaviest sells in this cycle, right? And so you can see the rest of the attempt throughout the day was very, very low volume to push it up and over the 200 SMA. So when they did that, it was pretty simple to see that it's gonna probably fail. But yeah, it was just that, okay, someone bought in at the lows, was already clearing out here. So now you kind of need to see that kind of gap up area to hold. But if it doesn't, this then tags that 180 level that we've been talking about.
So guys, I'm trying to be more bullish. I want to believe. I want to believe again. What I'm hearing from the two of you is a lot of, well, different time frames aren't looking good, and if this doesn't work, other time frames are not going to look as good. Everything leads me back, right, to
Yeah.
going to everything is a little more pessimist than optimistic. So if the three of us can agree that things could very well roll over here, and what we've seen in the recent past is that when you think you have a direction picked out, it's going to go the other way. Why should we be optimistic? I've got Tesla up here, and if we want to continue talking about Tesla, feel free to do that. I think it's a great chart to take a look at in this cycle, but we can look at whatever you want to. But my question is, if things are hinging on ifs, why are we trusting ifs?
Probably because price-wise, we're still relatively like within kind of a confluence area where all those kind of moving averages are sitting.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
So let me interrupt.
I would
So
agree with
there
GP's
could be
earlier
some down, but
statement that
not
the
too much.
weekly, what's that?
Sorry to interrupt. Let me just. So you're saying there could be some price a little down, but not too much more down. I'm looking at Tesla, and if I look at the daily, you know, moving averages confluence down from here down to 261, basically, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So the way I'm thinking about it, Ben, is that the underlying damage for a lot of these names that holds in the market up is literally there's so many things going back to near COVID lows, right? And then 2022 lows. And so you're at pivots and base bottoms that your risk to reward scenarios to bet on the upside are much more favorable than they were just 6 weeks ago, right? So if we get what I've been talking about, which is a rotation and broader market participation, which is what you're starting to see, right? You're seeing the metals perform. How's FCX doing today, which is copper, right? I haven't looked
It
at
was
it.
getting hit pretty hard, wasn't it? Yeah.
Was
Yeah,
it?
Freeport's down 3% today.
Yeah. And look at that, right at the 200 day? Stupid.
Yep,
Um,
and right at
but
yesterday's or Monday's range too.
yeah, Monday's range. But copper looks like it just broke out of like a 30-year base. It's possible that it fails, but so far it's holding above. So, like, if you're focusing on Apples and Microsofts and stuff, I think you're going to be sorely disappointed over the next couple of years. But that's me. Um, I think it's going to be a manufacturing based move here. Your broader participation across the markets. So notice outside of Tesla, I don't really talk about anything else in the FANG names because I have no interest. I cleared out all my Amazon and all my Google a couple weeks ago because I rather reallocate that money into names that I think are going to go higher based on economy stuff. So
Netflix.
Netflix I cleared out a long time ago. Remember, it was like 920 or something like that.
Well, I didn't realize you sold it all.
Yeah, yeah. So like stuff that I have from like 10 years ago, no, but all the stuff that I bought in 2022,
No,
that's all gone.
trading positions are gone.
Yeah, yeah. So, but it was like it was the same conversation. Is like Netflix at 920. What's the upside here? Maybe 20, maybe 30%. It's been a leader. It's been great. Do I want to risk my gains of at that time it was like 400% on equity versus a 20, 30% move higher? No, I rather reallocate and hold that cash and um, wait for better entries and other stuff. And then, but Netflix has been leading so far, right? Netflix has been remained strong. Anyway, I think Dr. Copper, the older, like a lot of people who are newer to the markets may not understand it, but before free money used to exist, there was something called Dr. Copper, and Dr. Copper was the health of economy. And the health of economy is telling you that Dr. Copper is ready to party and things are going to be okay. And they just may not be in the names you're holding. That's it.
I feel like
So
now
expand your horizon, look at your names, um, figure out what's right for you moving forward. Obviously, if you don't agree with me or think otherwise, then you do what's right for you. But that's just my thought process.
it's a good time to take a brief pause and give a shout out to Stocktwits Awards, the Cash Tag Awards presented by eToro. You can go to stocktwits.com/awards and check out all the awards. GP, you are still up for award. Where are you? There you are. I already voted, so I can't vote again. But the Community Member of the Year, right now, Don Corleone is ahead with the Professor in second. Let's get GP some more votes, but you can't go wrong with any of these four fellas. Let's see what else we got. Some Hashtag Legends Award. I'm guessing these are people who made those calls. We probably could have done great on a 2023 coin call, GP. Hashtag Awards.
Yeah.
Hashtag of the Year. This is a good one we can talk about. NVIDIA, Palantir, Tesla, or MicroStrategies.
Man, I would go with
What do you
Palantir
think?
Micro just because of how they both ripped further and further than just about everybody anticipated in both directions too.
Let's pull up.
We're
I
talking
can't.
about 2024, right? Cash tag.
Yes, 2024. I think you got to go with Palantir, right?
Yeah.
Or I mean, MicroStrategy had a pretty strong 2024 too.
I honestly vote for Nvidia because there were so many people who were bulled up, and Nvidia pretty much did nothing.
You know what? I think actually Mark the Top was 2K Kim was talking about his, I don't know, neighbor kid or something that like went all in on Nvidia in his retirement accounts. And I'm pretty sure that tweet was definitely damn near
Yeah,
the top of
All
Nvidia.
right, so Palantir was up 340% in 2024. Nvidia was up 171% in 2024. Tesla was up 62.5%, and MicroStrategies was up 358%. So it's definitely between Palantir and MicroStrategies. Palantir uh, is second in that percentage gain. MicroStrategies beats it by about 18%. But when you're up 300%, what's a couple percent to friends, right?
Yeah.
yeah.
Let's see
I
what's
don't really
trending.
understand that. I don't understand that award, so to speak. If it's just based on percentage, then that makes sense. But I think for me is the the chatter amongst everyone about how Nvidia is just going to keep going higher when it was making $100 billion and it's valued at 3.6 trillion, and they're like, oh, it's cheap. That's called the value trap, my friends.
Yep. If you're watching on stocktwits.com and you see the little ticker that goes above, you'll see a little blue flame right here with GameStop. And then
Yeah.
you hit the trending, and it tells you why it's trending. So this is AI generated. This is the new product feature that StockTwits has put in. It's awesome. It tells you why something's happening. It basically distills the stream for you. And if you were under a rock or didn't pay attention, GameStop's going to start using Bitcoin as a payment system and the reserves. So you get to pay 0.0000001 for Call of Duty 5, I guess. Is that a bullish reason to be bullish on GameStop? I don't know. Guys, what do you think?
Grifters are gonna grift. Sorry, like where were all of you when Bitcoin was at 19, 20,000 and I know we talked about it, Ben, like how it was like if every single outside of Coinbase, if every single platform is getting announced for going out of business, fraud, and Bitcoin still can't go down anymore, you were probably, it wasn't a technical call at that time. It was yeah, this is probably the bottom, right? And that was, I think, November 2022. And so where were you grifting when it was in the lows? Now you're boasting in the highs. I'm like, yeah, just keep grifting.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, maybe it goes to $1 million. You were still buying the top at some point because you're probably worse than a retail trader because you have billions of dollars behind you.
You know, we haven't talked about Bitcoin in a minute. You guys want to talk about Bitcoin for a second?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Bitcoin for a second. GP, you said absolutely. There you go. Have at it.
To me, it's if you go to the 4-hour and 50 SMA, it's doing its thing here. The 50-200, is that what you have here? Right.
The 200 is the red.
The weakness into the cross. We've talked about this so many times, and the yellow is the 50. I'm assuming.
Yes, the yellow is the 50.
Right.
Blue, green,
So
yellow, 9, 20, 50. Red is 200.
It's flagging into the cross. It's consolidating. I think it's going to move higher. Does that mean coin will ever go higher again? No, absolutely not. But Bitcoin looks like it's doing well. You do have the daily that's a technical problem, which is the 50s curling down on the daily. So there's still a lot of work to do, which is as you get these prolonged downside movements and no upside movements or pops, you tend to get these moving averages starting to roll over. So the work gets a lot harder, right? Because that, as most traders are looking at, are like, well, that's a sloping down moving average. I'm going to sell this and reassess. And if that's a consensus view, you get things like today.
I reloaded this week on some crypto, or last week, I should say. So I reloaded. I took some more Bitcoin on. I took some more Solana on. And what else did I buy?
Yeah, Solana looked good down there.
And I took some Ethereum below 2,000. So I like the three where they're at. You're right, GP. I want to see them move above their 50s there on the daily. I don't really pay that much attention to the daily, but looking at so far the weekly getting shut down at the 9 and 20 cross, that's what I'm paying attention to. I want to hold last week's lows, just like we want to hold Monday's lows on the SPY and the Qs, and then I'll reassess. But I kind of like it right here. I like the move up. It's on lower volume, and that's something that we're seeing across all these markets, right? Whether it's individual stocks or ETFs or even cryptos, we're seeing lower volumes both ways, and you kind of, I'm kind of fearful of seeing low volume moves because are they real or are they fake? And you don't know until you see time to play out. Nick, I know you don't value the volume as much as GP, and sometimes I do, but is that something that you're wary of or pay attention to?
When it comes to volume, I like to pay attention more to like the ones that like the high volume candles that really stick out. The volume profile, I mean, you can be kind of like napkin technical-ish with it. I don't seem to have a lot of, I don't know, either luck or feel like it really provides much of an edge in the way that I'm like trading or trying to get into something. It's got to be something that, like, for me, the volume's got to be surprising. I kind of feel like every time that I get uber bearish on crypto, I seem to be just like absolutely wrong. But I can't help but think that we're getting ready to roll here, and we're gonna like. I think Solana's heading like sub 100. Like I
Oh,
think we're gonna spike the lows, and I'm thinking that that's where we recover. But I don't.
so
It
down
doesn't
near
really
the
change
200
the
daily,
way.
sorry, 200 weekly, Nick. I've got on the
What's
screen
that?
now. Down here near the 200 weekly.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Because like when you look at the ranges, like so let's just say a Solana at 200, right? Maybe 200, 210. The fact that it couldn't get above 200, 210, it failed, that would be considered like a breakout failure. So then prices reverted back into the range,
Yep.
likely heading back to the lows of the range. And being that we had that breakout failure, there's a chance that we undercut the lows of that range before, ripping, reclaiming the range and getting kind of back into where ultimately price wants to find. Yeah.
Is that kind of the
But
range box you're describing there?
but it's like, again, like I've said, I don't know. I have found crypto to be difficult in the sense that when I have expected a down move, there have been times where it's played out well, but it's been very fast. It hasn't been like a prolonged.
It's like me and commodities, Nick. I
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
get
yeah.
them right either.
So I mean, with all of my crypto stuff, like I'm not really trading it. I'm just like I'm always dollar cost averaging. I'm just basically always buying more. Like some might be in strength and some might be versus weakness. It doesn't really. It's just kind of how I've looked at crypto. It doesn't.
GP,
It's my
what is it
bag.
that you like about Bitcoin?
So I'm actually very curious. I'm going to ask you the question, Ben, which is, for someone who's inherently bearish to the market, you're buying crypto,
Anything can
which is
trade.
which is the number one risk asset, right?
Anything
In the
can
market.
trade.
Just a trade, okay? Because I thought you were deploying cash, is what you said.
Yeah, anything can trade.
Yeah, yeah, I know anything can trade, but what makes you bullish the crypto market and bearish the stock market? What's the distinction?
Um, that's a great question. I think we have more risk currently in the stock market than the crypto market. I think a lot of the news is already baked in on both areas, and I think any news that could come toward the crypto would be positive, and almost any news that I can think of for the equities market would probably be negative. But I'm not buying Bitcoin at 86,000 for longs. I mean, that's why I bought in the 8, 9, 10,000 range years ago, right? Like those are my
Yeah.
longs. This is not hold on to this price forever for me. Now Solana's a different case. I would love to see, Nick, a spike of that 100. I would be buying with
Do,
both hands as soon as it breaks 100. As a matter of fact, I think I have a stink bid down there somewhere.
yeah, same thing. I think that puts Bitcoin like mid 60s, which would all that would be is a basically a retest of that massive ass base breakout that we had.
98.99 is where my stink bid is at, Nick.
98,
98.99.
99. Okay.
So I think the parent GP, I think the paradigm that we've had in the past that risk on is Bitcoin's up or crypto is up, I think is still somewhat accurate. I think again, our old show that we were doing, right? Like I talked about Ethereum being taken over by Solana as the second alt. I
Yeah.
still think the play is between those two right now. And I purchased more Solana this weekend than I purchased Ethereum, but I still think we're going to have some gyrations in those two tokens while Bitcoin continues to go up. We've talked a lot about alt season in the past, And where is my Bitcoin dominance chart? I mean, we are at all-time high. Well, I shouldn't say all-time highs. We're in almost 5-year highs of Bitcoin dominance. And until this comes down below 54, 55-ish, somewhere through here, until it comes down below here, Bitcoin is still going to outperform all of these altcoins. So I'm suspect of how much money I'm putting behind the alts. So that's why I hedged my alt bet, so to speak, of Solana and Ethereum with a little more Bitcoin this time.
Okay.
Man, that selling is coming in.
We having a market event somewhere, Nick?
I don't know. I was just
NQ's
pulling
just
up.
tested the gap low, FYI,
Yeah,
Nick.
like
Qs are well
Nvidia.
below, but the NQ's just tested the gap low, and so
Okay.
far held. But like I
It's
said, everything
fine.
happens in the last 15 minutes of this market. So
It's fine. I promise you, it's fine.
Well, I, I like wide range bars. I think they give a lot of information. I just don't particularly like seeing the downside wide range bars.
Nick, you wanted to talk
Yeah.
a little bit about cybersecurity stocks. You still in the mood for that, or has
I
today changed your
mean,
mind a little bit?
yeah, shit, we're getting smoked right now. I was gonna say,
Let's
I
look
mean,
at Palo Alto.
I know, I was loving all the cybersecurity names, and then all of a sudden, like, we got a massive, like, engulfing bar. Like, Zscaler is the one that kind of continues to, like, just stick out and be pretty to me. I like RBRK too,
RBRK.
or did at least. It's still holding up all right though. It popped up hard. Yeah, RBRK. There's what are the other ones?
CrowdStrike.
CrowdStrike. Yeah. Crowd. Anyways, yeah, I thought they were all looking great. They still like CrowdStrike. I think actually still looks good. Same thing with Zscaler, but
Yeah, I wouldn't give up on them here. I mean, if these were names
ah,
that I wanted to be in, and I do really like Zscaler. I mean, we talked about Zscaler last Wednesday, and all it's done is it's up 3.5% since then. So I wouldn't necessarily be afraid of Zscaler here. One name that I did buy or sell some puts on to get long was Broadcom.
Broadcom.
If
Yeah,
this is, as the three of us theorize, that this could be a spike down low to bounce here, I really like where Broadcom is at. I shared the chart. It might have been last week. I don't remember. Or maybe it was earlier this week. But if you look at this weekly chart, like this is one of the most beautiful parallel channels that you'll see, and or on the monthly, I guess it was. You'll see that we are right now. If I can draw the line, we're basically right now at that pivot. I don't have it on log. That's why. Let's change that scale. I decided to. There we go. I decided to give us a clean setup for our charts on here. It's a little bit below. So you want to see it spike here and bounce. So I sold some 180s to get long.
sure.
178 is not a bad thing, but I'll be watching that guy for sure.
can can you do me a favor, Bags?
I sure can. What would you like me to do?
So take a look at the Q monthly.
QQQ monthly. There you go.
Now compare these two candles to the COVID candles. February, March
These
COVID candles.
two candles, the February and March candles,
Yep.
to COVID February and March candles.
Yeah. So that like to go back to what we were talking about when I first started talking about it was like where a lot of the names are in their bases, right? And these candles being the way they are, it's a lot of it's seeming like potential spring setups. If you've been holding for 2 years, like let's talk about Restoration Hardware.
Mm-hmm.
If you've been holding for 2 years, in the last 2 months, you've basically given back every single dollar you've made on Restoration Hardware in 6 weeks, right? And you can say that about Wayfair. You can say that about XYZ. No, that's actual company name, yes, because Jack is a moron. But you can say that across the board. So I think that's kind of what I'm also watching here overall. Is that the monthly candles look the same? There's a lot of spring setups, and you have possibilities. Someone in the chat asked us to pick a name to outperform.
What time period? What are we outperforming? 2025?
I don't know. You gotta ask Hollywood One, who's listening.
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
We're sticking with hymns, GP.
I actually think it's gonna be AMD.
Oh.
Sorry,
Right.
GP. Where did you go?
I went to to answer the question. I think it's gonna be AMD. Outperform.
I would love that.
AMD.
Right, like the monthly is literally the same, and outperform over what time frame? I would say over the next 3 to 5 months, right? It was one of the first to bottom. What's that?
I'm just going to put this there, what I just drew on the screen for AMD. I'm just going to put this there. This was something I was looking at this week.
And so based on where like a lot of the, maybe you still consider overvalued, but based on where all the valuations are, have gotten taken to the woodshed, this is one of the first ones to show you strength over the last, I think it's had 3 straight green weeks, I believe. Is this also a 4th week on AMD that's green?
Yeah, AMD's been strong.
Yeah. So when we've had this, not green anymore, but we still got a couple days.
Well, it's still green on the week. It's just down from where it opened.
Yeah.
It gapped up.
So I do like this. We may get one more test of the lows. That's possibilities similar to that October. If you look in your left corner, the October 2023 to December 2024 kind of, right there, right where you were.
Yep.
Where it kind of bounced and had that red candle, came back and retested the lows and then took off. That's one possibility, but I do like AMD here. That's what I think is going to outperform.
I'll take Bitcoin then, Hollywood. If we're talking about months or month out, I'll take Bitcoin.
Nick, you got something?
Yeah, I was gonna say hymns or PGNY are my two.
PGNY. It's been a minute since I've heard the old ticker PGNY. What's it been up to, Nick?
If you go to the monthly, I guess I'm not on. I don't think I'm on log scale, but I really liked the big old wedge that it kind of created. Yeah, I'm not on log scale. That's why mine looks different. Let's see here. But either way, I like it.
There you go. There's regular.
Put in slow.
GP, do you use regular or log? Am I the only one who's using log?
I think so. I think a lot of traders use log. I use regular because I like seeing the visual. That's me. That's just personally me. So.
Yeah.
I typically kind of flip flop on my weekly monthlies, but on the daily I don't use the log.
I'm usually looking at weekly and monthlies, so there you go.
I like to see the full pain. So when you get a 60% move down in 5 weeks in stocks, I want to see that full pain level. Log makes it less painful.
until today, another name that I was looking at was ServiceNow.
Oh yeah.
We've talked about the IGV and software. I kind of like ServiceNow up here. I don't know that I would have loved it off the monthly low, which we still may get. But yeah, I think somewhere around that upper 7 to 8 bills. I might go fishing there. Might go fishing there.
Yeah.
But if a GP is right, as he has been saying, that all of our growth and high flyers are impending doom, maybe I'll rethink that. Because as you know, I have a lot of growth in my portfolio. The one name that has been the recent acquisition that's not growth is Pfizer. And interestingly enough, Friday they had their largest volume day ever. And that has to be with rebalancing of ETFs, right? And funds. Has to be from that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Pfizer, basically just buy and store, right?
Yeah, it's a dividend
Has
play. I'm not expecting it to go up 40% in a month.
it's in a range where you're getting 7% right now. Just kind of enjoy it while it's down here, and hopefully over the next 5 years it performs much better than it's been over the last 2 years, and you can continue to get your 7% and sell some off and get some upside. So
Yep.
that's a very interesting volume candle in Pfizer for sure. I think you're seeing a lot of the rotation names, right? So
So
this
it's
could
not
be
the
one of
largest weekly. It's up there for the weekly. But
yeah.
on the daily, as far as I could go back, that was the largest single volume candle. And since it was Friday, that's what leads me to believe it had to be rebalancing.
Yeah, there was a lot of craziness that happened, right, on Friday,
Yeah.
as they always do on these rebalancings.
Wow, we're over time. Look at that.
Yeah.
Nick, last words.
Man, hold the line. Come on. I don't
Hold the
wanna.
line.
Yeah, hold the line.
This is Sparta.
I mean, I'm probably gonna throw on some practice swing shorts if we end up taking this low out, but you know, I hope not.
GP.
Diversify. Reframe
Diversify.
your reframe your thinking. Um, we've been talking about it for months on our own channel. Probably not as much on here because we just started 3 weeks ago, but I've been under the impression for a while now that tech in general is going to be lagging the markets, its financials, commodities, insurance plays, etc. Right? So, not saying that Apple can't go up 10% or 20% or Microsoft can't go back or whatever that other stuff is. I just think if you're looking for, um, yeah, diversify. That's the one word.
Goldbug GP.
Yeah, I was gonna say gold or silver. They both look good.
Silver,
Silver
copper.
looks ready to. Silver looks.
If
I think
silver
silver
catches
looks
up,
the
it looks
best.
great. Silver is a miserable commodity, though.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
so
I think solar
copper, to
really has
me,
to take
copper's
off
already
here.
showing you it's broken out. So um, that's where I would say. So like gold broke out. We talked about this, Nick, a lot of times, right?
Yep.
2100 to 3000. So if copper's in the same place, you can have it's a multi-decade breakout in copper, like multi-decade. And if it holds, it's going to be a quarterly breakout. It's going to be a monthly breakout, a weekly. It's multi-timeframe alignment. So
I like that.
I'm,
Yeah.
my last word's going to be is like, don't believe your lying eyes, or rather, maybe you should. Trade what you got, not what you want. And right now, if we break below this little range right here, we could see that spike of the lows as Nick mentioned. So don't want to be the wet blanket, but I'll continue to be the wet blanket until I'm not. And I want to be bullish. Like again, I said I sold some puts to get long, so hopefully those pay off if I actually get long. But we'll see. I think Thursday and Friday will be important days. We'll see what happens tomorrow and Friday in the market. If we see some bounce, then I think that's great. If we see some more flush, going to be more pain more likely.
Dude, that
We
volume.
started our pod, was that at the 2021 highs? 2022 highs, that's when we started?
No, we started January 2022, right before we
Or
died.
22?
Yeah,
Okay. Does that mean us
way
hopping
back
on
here, Nick.
Stocktwits also topped out the market?
Maybe.
Pretty sure the market had already gone down 10% when we started talking.
Oh, yeah, that's right. All right. Okay.
No, man, I don't want that distinction. Give it to someone else.
I
Well,
mean,
I mean,
I
you
don't
just gotta
mean to
use
bring
it.
up old shit, but I kind of said this is kind of reminding me of this. You can go back
Yeah.
and check the YouTube clips, but I said this is kind of reminding me of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's like 747,000 accounts on FinTwit that say the same thing.
Yeah,
So you just need confirmation.
I hate the
Um,
analogs. That's why I try to do my own thing, GP.
yeah, yeah. So I just it'll be this Friday is not a monthly candle formation, FYI, guys. It's only a weekly. I always love weekly and monthlies closing on the same time, but Monday's the actual monthly. So we will need to see how the monthly closes after the weekly closes on Friday.
Agreed.
There's a lot of room to repair. So
Yeah.
Yep. I'll go back and research my 700 friends who warned this after the election gap up. But
Oh.
love you, boys.
yeah.
We're out of here. Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week, 2:15 on Wednesday. Every Wednesday at 2:15, right here on Stocktwits, on X, on YouTube. You can find this show and many others. Stocktwits is big on the content, and we love it. Can't wait to be back here to do it again with you guys. And with that, we're out.